Welcome to my theory, the Jay Roos theory. What's up, y'all? Make sure to subscribe, comment, and all that stuff. I want to ask you guys, what era of the heavyweight division do you think was the toughest? I know the era that got me really involved in the sport was the 90s. The first real fight I saw was Evander Holyfield versus Larry Holmes. A lot of people thought it was a lackluster fight, but I was into it. I mean, you could hear the punches. I was like, wow, this is like watching a Rocky movie. They got the mics near the ring, so you could hear every blow. I was like, man. And to those that had been watching the sport, I guess it was maybe dull to them, but, I thought the fight was pretty exciting. And I saw Lennox Lewis fight on Tuesday Night Fights against a guy named Mike Dixon, and Lewis went in there and just demolished him, and I took immediate liking to Lennox Lewis. I like calm fighters, kind of like Drago, that don't speak much. You could just feel their presence. I think that's the biggest form of intimidation is the quiet type. Remember Mark Bavaro played for New York in football. He was quiet, tight end, and he intimidated people, and that's what Lewis did. But the '80s were tough. The '70s were tough. Yeah, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, same person. George Foreman, Frazier, Ron Lyle, Ken Norton. Um, I know it's some others that I'm forgetting, but that was that was maybe the toughest era, the Foreman era. I mean, them dudes. I mean, remember when Ali got his jaw broken against Ken Norton and still finished? Although, fast forward to the '90s, Tommy Morrison got his jaw broken against Joe Hip and kept fighting and ended up not stopping Joe Hip, from what I remember. I know he won the fight. So, and they were going 15 rounds, and I don't even think the gloves were as well padded um, as they were later. I heard that Mike Tyson was the one that eventually got the gloves more padded because he was hitting so hard. But that era with George Foreman and Frazier and all them, they were just Ken Norton. They were just tough. They would have a lot of fights within a year. They weren't afraid to mess up their records. They weren't trying to protect their win loss column. They would fight anybody, go 15 rounds, rematch, fight newcomers. That was a tough era, man. I mean, that's back when people would stop whatever they were doing, miss work, whatever, to see the fights. The heavyweight division dictated sports. They say now the heavyweight division dictates boxing, but back then the heavyweight division dictated all of sports. Everybody would stop what they were doing to watch a big heavyweight championship fight. But the division, all that stuff was all that stuff was a little I was a little child back in the Ali era and stuff like that. So the '90s was the era that really got me going. You had Evander Holyfield, George Foreman came back, Mike Tyson, David Tua, Ika Abuchi. If you don't know about him, I did a video about him on my NWJ platform. Lennox Lewis, of course, Razor Ruddock, Michael Moore. The Klitschko's came in late. Man, the '90s were just packed. And this era right here is not so bad. People kind of talk bad about the heavyweights now, and I wish they would fight each other and stop having all these negotiation wars. But this is a tough era. This is the most exciting era I've seen since the '90s. You got some real talented people out there, and even probably some more surprises to come, like Zhang. He just came out of nowhere at 40 years old and beat Joe Joyce. I said on my WJ platform, y'all better stop sleeping on these heavyweights in their later age, because they have knowledge and they have built up strength, and you can't sleep on them. But this era is tough. It's like I said, though, they're just not fighting each other. You got Frank Sanchez out there, F.A. Jagba, Jarrell Big Baby Miller, and then you have the other big baby out there. You got Dillian White, who's on the downside of his career. Tyson Fury, Usyk, champion. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder. It's a lot of tough guys out there. A lot of tough guys. Andy Ruiz. I'm probably forgetting somebody, but I would say the toughest division would have to be probably of the heavyweight division, the late 60s, and I'm going to say the 90s. Remember Ray Mercer? If you've never seen the fight between Ray Mercer and Lennox Lewis, check that war out. Ray Mercer gave Lewis the toughest fight of his career and messed his face up pretty bad, but Lewis got I believe it was a split decision. And go check out Ray Mercer versus Burt Cooper. Burt Cooper, man, that guy was tough. They called him Smoking Burt Cooper. His style was a lot like Joe Frazier. They were about the same build, except Burt Cooper was a little heavier, I believe. This guy, he was just tough, man. You could hit this dude with an aluminum bat and he would probably just smile at you. There's just a lot of tough fighters out there from the 90s, from the 70s, so that it's tough to pick, you know, but I'm going to say because it's the era that I really grew up watching and really got involved, I'm going to say the 90s was the toughest era. And, you know, a lot of you will disagree with me, and that's cool. You don't have to agree with me, but it's almost like you're going to pick the era you grew up watching. You know, people that grew up watching Cassius Clay and Foreman and all them, they're probably going to pick them. And I grew up watching the 90s, so I'm picking them. And youngsters growing up on this era, they'll probably pick them. So it's kind of just who you grew up watching. But you can go back and compare fights. You know, YouTube has an endless library of classic fights. But I'm going to say the 90s. Razor Ruddock, Tommy Morrison, go check that out. Tommy Morrison hit Razor Ruddock with such a left hook, and Ruddock just dropped like a bag of sand, and I didn't think he was getting up, but he did. But later, Tommy Morrison stopped him. A lot of tough fighters. I'm trying to think of that guy that Razor Ruddock hit with this weird upper. Razor Ruddock had the strangest uppercut he used to throw. What was that guy's name that he hit? Michael Dokes, yeah. He hit Dokes with an uppercut. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh man. I remember Mike Tyson said Razor Ruddock hits like a mule kick. But what era do you guys think was the toughest era in the heavyweight division, my favorite division? And Tank Davis hits like a heavyweight. And he's the face of boxing. Anyway, this is the J. Roos Theory. Thank you for watching. LSR forever. And be fearless. Yay, yay.